Hi everyone! So yeah, Season 4 is here. And that of course means that the WoW grind is back on. Now we do actually end up starting this season off with a time walking week, which is great for everyone because it's a great opportunity to get an easy piece of raid gear. You might be lucky to get a trinket even. Unfortunately, my vault from last season, so the last vault here is a little bit disappointing. I do actually end up getting a fairly big eye level upgrade on my boots, but I definitely had some trinkets I was really hoping for to get into this season that would like really benefit me, but unfortunately I don't. So I still have a 424 trinket. But I mean, that 424 trinket is a beacon to be on, so I really can't really complain because it's still extremely strong. But I'm just kind of hoping for new trinkets just so I can get like my number up. But yeah, before we get to any of the dungeons and like really get to start on the season, I wanted to knock off this weekly time walking to get a chance at getting maybe a new trinket or just any part of like raid gear would be just absolutely amazing start of a season. And I wanted like to really just like blast through these because like I'm excited to try out the dungeons again, since they are returning ones. But in the first group right here, I kind of just, left with some, I don't know, and that's the thing with time walking, right? It's no like shit to them or anything, that they do kind of low damage. It could simply be that the scaling is like way off somehow, maybe the leveling, I did not check their actual level or gear or whatever because, I didn't care that much about it. It's just, yeah, I wanted to go faster, but unfortunately I didn't. So nothing else to do but to, get the dungeon done and then try again. And this time we actually do end up getting some pumpers in our group. Both the Demon Hunter and the Retribution Paladin here, I believe they're both like 480 plus something, like 486. So they also like in the kind of same spot as probably everyone else here. It's just, they wanted to get the weekly out of the way before they like start pushing keys. And you see it here, because the Demon Hunter is just going like crazy on a pack that I haven't even touched or anything yet. And like he just want to like rush through this and get through this as quickly as possible. And that means that he like's gonna run a little bit ahead of me, and he's also gonna like take aggro from me sometimes and just pull a little bit. And this is again like just I'm perfectly fine with it, right? Like the guy clearly can like survive it and like can take care of it. It doesn't bother me like one bit. Me too. I also just want to get through this as quickly as possible. So we do actually end up just almost the whole party just completely group up for the rest of the 5 dungeons that we need to do. So was it worth it? Of course. Was it disappointing? Yeah. Yeah. So it is just a rest. It is 496, so it is definitely an item upgrade, item level upgrade, but it's not, as I said, it's not a trinket, it's not a weapon, it's not really much that's really that interesting. So, unfortunately, a little bit disappointing, but hey, we're gonna take it, and yeah, we're just gonna be happy about the item level upgrade. So, with our time working done, we can now start on actually going into the season and playing the dungeons. And as you can see in the footage, I have a +2 to Ruby Life Pool. Now, Ruby Life Pool was kind of notorious when it like first came out, or like when Dragonflight launched, because it was tuned really insanely, especially the upper circle area. But at the end of the season 1, after all the nerfs and stuff like that, it was honestly in a pretty good spot, especially if you actually were playing with a group that had multiple. Well, everyone has multiple kicks, but like had a lot of CC and stuff to take care of it. But as you also can see, no one is just signing up, which was really, really strange for me, because usually in the beginning of like every season, especially when you're playing a tank as well and signing up, these typical things used to just be like completely filled up with DPSers and healers and all kind of stuff, and no one is just queuing for my dungeon. I thought it was my eye level at this point, but I soon realized it might be something else. And this is where my short attention span comes in, because I'm just like, screw my own key, I'm just gonna see what everyone else is playing and then like see if I can come into a group somehow. I did notice that everyone was playing a +2, and I was kind of like, honestly didn't really think twice about it. I just honestly just thought that, hey, that's pretty nice, going into a lower keys, I can get like pretty good gear. I noticed that like, there's a pretty big eye level like upgrade or change up here. So I thought like, hey, cool, right? Easy start, you know. I'm a little bit undergeared. I'm only 460, I think, at this point. So I thought it was a great way to just get into it. We do actually end up getting into a key, and that's gonna be Nokhud Offensive. Now, I definitely have a love-hate relationship with Nokhud Offensive. I think there's a lot of really cool elements that I really enjoy. For example, like, you know, that it's a dragon riding dungeon that you can just fly around. I think it's absolutely amazing that Blizzard actually took that risk and did it, because even though it's a very basic implementation of dragon riding in here, it kind of just laid the foundation, and I think just for that alone, this dungeon, I will always like have respect for it. And on paper, you know, the dungeon is extremely open. You can just you can basically fly anywhere you want. The only problem with that is that in actually, like, you know, implementation and actually practicality of it, it's not really open that much at all. Like if you're running a timed key, you kind of need to, like, there's like a specific route, you know. That's why we go into the dragon boss first instead of like going over to the, when you can do that, but like going to the two ghost boss, like the third boss, it's basically just like, you know, a huge waste of time. You have to fly all the way back and like back to the dragon, or like back to whatever the point. Like this, it's honestly becomes extremely strict, because again, we just figure out the fastest way. And with that not really being anything to challenge the dragon riding, any form of like putting like gameplay into it, it kind of just becomes a little bit flat. But this is like kind of the point where I figure out that there is something different. First of all, Nokhud Offensive was really like irritating back in season 1, because it kind of had, like, at least from a tank perspective, it kind of had this thing where there's like a lot of mobs going on, and they are always casting something, or someone is always doing something. So it's really hard to figure out what is actually like a danger to you and what is not. So, like, you know, the experience is like going through it, and I'm definitely coming back here because I don't really remember it. It's like, how long is it? Like a year? Like year and a half? Jesus. It's the tanking experience of this is basically just that, like, 99% of things that's going off is not really a danger to you, and just like, you know, it's gonna hit someone else, whatever. And then that 1% is just gonna absolutely like kill you, like one shot you, or just bring you like to 20% health in like a second. I remember when I was pushing in season 1 that Nokhud was definitely probably one of the most like stressful dungeons that I have played. But I'm also, credit to Nokhud, it's not just Nokhud's fault that we are struggling here, or that I am also like gonna struggle later. Because one thing that I completely forgot about, and I can't believe I actually did, is the fact that +2 is not a +2 anymore. So with the whole like Blizzard changing the difficulties with like Heroic and Mythic 0, they did that change. So basically +2 is equal to a 11 in the last season. So a +3 would be 13, a +5 would be a 15, and a +10 would be a 20. Now, as you can see, it's doable. I mean, we do end up actually like timing it and everything, but I am definitely getting smacked around here. And what boss is better to show that off than the second boss? For some reason, I mean not for some reason, because clearly I pulled him before getting into ranged. I just threw Judgment, meaning that he actually gonna hit me with the attack he does when the tank moves out of melee range, which just completely like annihilated me, and I had to like drop like a pretty decent amount of defensive just to like recover from that. But I completely forgot what the tank buster was here on this boss. I completely forgot about it. What it basically is just that his melee attacks it does increasing amount of damage, and he just has a chance to do like, is it just twice, or is it like even more like amount of damage on you? And me being, you know, quite undergeared, this boss is gonna like put me in my place. After a quick wipe, we actually end up trying again. And this time I actually wait until I'm in melee range before I interact with the boss. As you can see here, I'm not the only one taking extreme amount of damage. This boss was definitely in season 1 notorious for being a really strict healer check. And you know, it's still not good. This boss right here stands once again to try out all our healers. After, better spending of my own cooldowns and, not taking unnecessary damage, we do actually end up taking the kill on the boss. This is kind of like the point where I was considering I might be a little bit too undergeared for this, because this boss had been wrecking me completely with the with his tank buster, the wombo combo that he's doing. And I do unfortunately actually end up dying here just because I'm just a little bit out of reach with my IF tier. So, the damage reduction actually doesn't go off on him, and then he hits me with the full blast, and I just, I quit. But where one hero falls, another one rises, because these guys are absolute champs and actually end up killing him without a tank. So yeah, GG. What a great way to start the season. Now the next key I have for you is of course Azure Vault. And that was actually my favorite dungeon from season 1. And that's actually funny because before Mythic Plus actually opened up, the first 2 weeks I believe it was of launch of Dragonflight. You couldn't actually enter Mythic Plus, we were stuck with the heroic dungeons, the normal dungeons, and I absolutely hated Azure Vault, mainly from the aesthetic point of view, and that kind of still stands. I think it's too purple, too bluish, it's too much. I wanted some more variation. I get kind of just tired looking at it, to be honest. So I was like really dreading going into Mythic Plus with it. I was like really expecting this to be the one that I, disliked the most next to Nefarious, but the more I played it, the more I just really enjoyed it. The packs that you are pulling throughout the dungeon has a really good density to it. So it on screen you actually have to deal with a lot of packs without of any of them actually being overly complicated. For a lot of these packs, there basically are maybe 1 or 2 kicks or something you need to stun, and that's basically it. And then there's also just a really good flow between the packs. You don't actually have to use that much movement speed to get there. Now that being said, there is still a lot of traveling time. It's just where the areas that are filled with mobs, they are really packed up. And then throughout the dungeons there are small gaps where there are no combat and you basically just have to travel. And here I'm thinking about after the first boss, and then also the rings where you have to fly over and fly down and stuff like that. Now after Nokhud, I was a little bit afraid of how much I could actually pull. It is tyrannical, but I was a little bit, scared from dying to some different mobs and stuff like that. So, but actually it turned out to be pretty fine. And that's also what I remembered, because Azure Vault was actually nerfed pretty early on in the season, if I remember correctly. And because in the beginning it was actually quite brutal, and things had hit you extremely hard. I mean, just melee damage and stuff like that, making these double pulls really hard to do. But the nerfs came a few weeks after and made it basically as it is right now, and it's just it just feels perfect. Now, for a controversial change, that they actually did end up deleting the skip that you could do, meaning that now you have to go down the stairs and actually, face up with the frogs. And, I totally get why the skip was preferred in many ways, because what these frogs do is they, jump around. This whole area is a complete nightmare for, any ranged, or just anyone who has to, stand still just for a second. It is actually just basically the same mechanic from Blackrock Hold, the right before the last boss. On one hand, I completely see the point, right? It's a really annoying mechanic to have to deal with. Basically anytime something deals with your movement in WoW, it basically always sucks. And also just from a route perspective, right? It was pretty cool that you could just pick up all the mobs right before second boss and then skip the whole other, the rest of the dungeon. That's extremely cool in my opinion. But from a very selfish tank perspective, I fucking love this area, man. And it's to do with chain pulling. Because honestly, there's nothing better in my opinion, with tanking, than just being able to just chain pull. Completely be always in combat and just keep the train going. And this whole area, from the second boss all the way down to the third boss, is just all of that. But as I said, that's a very selfish tank perspective because I don't have to deal with any mechanics. Everything goes to my DPSers and my healers. So you can't just, pull everything, at once. You have to space them out between. But, I kind of like to just, keep it going, right? Right before when everything is almost about to die, that's when you, keep it going. But yeah, if you're a ranged DPS or a healer and you tell me that you hate this area, I completely get your point of view, and you would not be wrong. Now, the last really good credit I want to give Azure Vault. It's a long dungeon, which is one of the negatives, but it's the two last bosses are right after each other, which is just perfect. There shouldn't have been anything more in between. That would been absolutely insane, but also just I don't think Blizzard should be afraid to do these boss on boss things. I think they're kind of cool. Especially, if you get to make the choice between, where or when you want Bloodlust, or, other big cooldowns. So yeah, we absolutely smashed it. The experience between Nokhud and this dungeon was, night and day. So I was actually lucky enough to get some gear from my 2 dungeons, putting us now at 470. Now, another dungeon that was also just a really pleasant surprise was actually Ruby Life Pool. With a bump up in our eye level and also, just getting a little bit of score, we actually managed to fill up our group and get this key started. Now, as I said before, I was actually pleasantly surprised by Ruby Life Pool because I do remember this in the beginning of Season 1 where it was an absolute nightmare. Which were a shame because I was very much looking forward to this dungeon, opposite to Azure Vault, because this dungeon, first of all, it's extremely short, which is always a plus in my book. I think a dungeon should just be between 20 to 30 minutes. I definitely don't think it should go over 30 minutes. And then also it's very colorful, it's vibrant, and also there's change in scenery, going up higher up in the dungeon. I think it's all around really great. So it being extremely difficult, especially pugging it, because there is a lot of really dangerous casts that needed to be interrupted almost constantly. That kind of just put a downer on the whole dungeon. But now it actually seems like we got basically the very nerfed version, or the version we had at the very end of season 1, which honestly feels really great. And don't get me wrong, it's not a particular super easy or a brain dead dungeon or anything like that. There are definitely still casts and different things you need to interrupt and stun, or else you're gonna take a lot of damage. And this is also tyrannical, right? It's gonna be even more hurtful on fortified, so the overall opinion could change, but I do actually have a relatively good gut feeling about Ruby Life Pool. I mean, you can see we are taking a lot of damage, but it's also not really the most efficient pulling here, as well as also just missing some casts and stuff like that around. But the more experience, the more we refresh our memories about this stuff, I think Ruby Life Pool is in a pretty good spot. It does seem from what I heard from other POCs and just in general in the community, that a lot of people are struggling with the last boss here. Though, one thing I learned from Season 1 is, basically if you pull the troll guy all the way back here and your DPSers stand around these 2 pillars, this dragon will always land, and what you want to do is you always want to focus the dragon. That's because he's the one that's gonna blow the air, as you can see here, move all the stuff around and make it really difficult to navigate this boss fight. If you can get him down as quickly as possible, that's just more of the fight. You don't have to deal with that stuff. So a little pro tip is basically just to pull the boss all the way back, so you can get the most damage off on the dragon. And yeah, overall I think Ruby is in a really great spot. I can't wait to see on Tyrannical. I mean Fortified, because I think that's really where most of the challenge, or the big challenge, at least from a tank perspective, is going to be at. But it does seem like Ruby is going to be a dungeon that is going to test you, but as long as you have everything, make sure that you kick everything that you know to kick, and stun the things that needs to be stunned, then you should be fine. So yeah, I actually decided that I wanted to focus on upping my eye level a little bit, because I'm still quite relatively undergeared and I want to start pushing, and getting be more comfortable with it. In the keys, I mean, with my tankiness and stuff like that. So I decided to, hit up all the M0s, which I really enjoyed. The Blizzard has upped the difficulty. I think that's a really great thing, and I think it kind of feels like a new, a beginning of a new expansion with how much activity that's going on. And I do just hope that it has a little bit more, like, you know, shelf time, that it just doesn't, like, M0s doesn't just die off as soon as we don't need the gear, like it, you know, heroic dungeons typically do as soon as Mythic Plus opens up. But you know, so if Blizzard in any way can like implement it more, because I think it's really good to just they pushing the more the people who are not playing Mythic Dungeons, basically. I think it's just great to, like, you know, give them a little bit more up in the difficulty and just, you know, have the game ask them of a little bit more. But that's basically been my first day in here in this season. I'm gonna, like, while you're probably, like, you know, watching this, I'm already grinding away and, you know, pushing, get done with all the M0s, and then also pushing into higher and higher keys. And I can't wait to update you guys in the next video. But everyone, I hope you enjoyed the season 4, and take care.